Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast, presented by Blue Moon, made brighter. Get Blue Moon delivered and see delivery options by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Happy Tuesday. Cody Delmendo, Ryan Herrera, and Luke Stuckmeyer in the box.
Still in the box.
Still in the box.
Can't leave the box.
Penalty box.
He's in solitary confinement. Is that what is that the term?
Yeah.
Not the penalty box, it's the penicillin box.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Before we get started, we got a little order of business here. Obviously, 8 days away from opening, or 9 days away from opening day, sorry. 9 days away from opening day. Again, we have our watch party and live post game at Country Club in Wrigley Thursday, March 28th. Around 6 p.m., I think, is when we're all going to be there. We'll watch the game. Hopefully the Cubs win, and then I'm doing a beer bat on the post-game show there at the bar. That is what we all hope, right? Cracking blue moons at the bar. I look forward to that. So go to allchgo.com. It's the link is in the description, and it's free to come. We're just asking people to RSVP so we have a good idea of how many people are going to be there. I know a handful of my own friends are going to be there, so I'm excited.
I'll be there.
Sarah will be there. I know all of you in the chat love Sarah. You always chime in about how Sarah is great as our producer.
She is.
She is. I will say I've been very stressed before this show today, and she's been such a huge help. So credit to her. So yeah, come out to that. Also, we got a handful of new diehards. Like we said yesterday, Stuck. Like what did you say? It's FOMO.
FOMO.
Like,
FOMO.
Yeah.
FOMO.
The kids call it FOMO, Cody. I know you're a little bit old for that, but it's fear of missing out. So they just keep signing. They heard about all the people, the 19 people that signed up yesterday, and today a bunch more were like, I got to get on board before the season starts.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was going to say credit to Stuckey for knowing what FOMO was.
Yeah.
That's like maybe 30 years past his time, but
He knows a little bit. He knows some kids, right?
we have enough young people working at this company. It's
good to have. It's good to have a good Luke Stuckmeyer here, though, right? So we got 5 new diehards: Joseph, Salvador, Michael, Danny, and Jamil. I want to say it's with a G, Gemil. I want to say it's Jamil.
Yeah. Apologies if I
said it wrong. They just told me the list, and I'm reading it because we have to give you credit. You are the reason I get to have a job. Credit to you all. Thank you. I see some people in the chat. Niren's in the chat saying that he's inviting people to the watch party. Credit to Niren. Wow. All right. Barb, we are live. Sales guy Jim, who's sitting like 10 feet away, is in the chat. Wrigley Man 1. I know you're a diehard man. Welcome.
Diehard.
Edward. Who else? Jake, Chris, the setup man, Kyle. What's going on, man? Y'all hit the like button. Okay, so today, obviously, we got to start with the big news in baseball. I guess last night, Blake Snell finally chose a team. My favorite part of the Blake Snell free agency era.
I turned my volume down, too. I don't know why I did that.
My favorite part of the Blake Snell free agency era was probably that meme I made with his Instagram story that he made like 2 weeks ago with just the eye emojis. It was just a black screen with the eye emojis. I screenshot it, and then over his eye emojis, I put Yadier Molina isn't a Hall of Famer over it, and it went viral on Cubs Twitter. That was my favorite part of the Blake Snell free agency era, as in there wasn't anything good about it, and I'm just happy that it's finally over. 1 down, 1 to go, guys. I guess the big question is, do we like the contract for him? Like, are we disappointed the Cubs didn't sign him, considering it's a 2-year deal with an opt-out, basically just like Cody Bellinger, except it's 1 less year? Like, if you go back and listen to our show this entire offseason, I was pretty down on Blake Snell. I wasn't really in on him at all. But I will say that if you could have got him on a 2-year deal, paying him $30 million AAV, and he can opt out after the season, it is kind of like it's right up Jed Hoyer's alley. And listen, like his walks scare me, but for 1 year, I would have rolled the dice, let him, go out there and try and prove again that he's one of the top pitchers in the league, and then, then he could be that bridge to Cade Horton next year or something. So I guess in some ways I'm a little disappointed that they didn't sign him, but the Cubs were never involved.
Yeah. No, it's was it 2 years, $62 million?
Yeah.
With the opt out after the first. Is there any like specific like things he has to meet to get that opt out, or is it just an opt out after the first year?
All I know is it's just an opt out.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not completely sure.
Okay. So well, regardless, it's pretty similar to what the rest of the Boras clients have thus far signed. The ability to opt out, short-term deal, a little bit maybe higher AAV. I mean, like you said, the Cubs were never truly involved with Blake Snell, as far as what we've heard. The Cubs are happy with what they have rotation-wise. Blake Snell would have been an upgrade, like in my opinion, just based on what they have. Especially now, we've been talking about Jamison Tyone, his injury and missing the beginning of the year, however long that lasts. And they have some depth, some solid depth, but that's back-end depth. But just, I mean, you think about just in general, you add a guy like Blake Snell, who is coming off a Cy Young, he's had his lows throughout his career, but obviously his highs are 2 Cy Young awards. So he is, the ceiling for him is still pretty high. So you add a guy like Blake Snell in there, you're not as worried about what the like digging into that depth, obviously, just in a general sense, because you have a guy who was going to be right either at the top or near the top of your rotation. So, it would be a upgrade as far as the ceiling of your pitching staff. Kyle, the setup man in the chat, points out he's not the innings eater you want for $30 million. He isn't someone that is consistently going deep into games. The walk rates were high last year, and that's definitely a point of concern. Not that it's a huge knock because he won the Cy Young regardless, but it is part of the concern with him. And obviously the AAV is so high on a deal like that, whereas the Cubs, I'm not sure when this changed. I'm looking at Fangraphs, but it says that they're actually over the first luxury tax threshold. I'm just quick skim, not seeing what exactly changed in that, because last time I looked a couple weeks back, it was like maybe a little less than $3 million away from the first luxury tax threshold. So they are over, according to Fangraphs, which means adding another, what's a like 31 million AAV to that or whatever it is. Yeah. You're putting yourself over the second luxury tax threshold. Again, I'm not saying I totally agree with that just because they're the Cubs and they have the resources to, work through that, to weather that storm. Like they can go over over all the luxury tax thresholds if they really want to. That's not how they operate. They were just, a contract like that probably just didn't fit into their plans. And obviously, like they want to have some wiggle room for mid-season transactions, whether that is guys that have to go on the IL and you have to add someone to the 40, like whatever that is. There are just the regular roster churn throughout a year. They have to take that into account. And then if they're competing at the deadline and they want to go and get a couple guys, like, everyone complained about them not doing more at the deadline this past season when they only went out and traded for Jamer Candelario and Jose Cuas. Like, if they want to do more than that this next season, like, you're adding Blake Snell's contract to this right now. Again, it's the way the Cubs operate. Mm-hmm. That's probably going to limit what they would do at the trade deadline. So having a little extra wiggle room right now means that they will have just more room under whatever threshold is like their limit. Whatever they don't want to pass up, not adding Blake Snell's contract onto that, their payroll right now, means they will have that extra wiggle room to, if it comes to the trade deadline and they want to add, they could do more and add the pieces that they need at that time. I think that all plays a part in obviously why the Cubs didn't sign Blake Snell, but also just why it never felt like they were truly in on him.
I get why. I just think if you're asking me what gives the Cubs the best chances to go ahead and run away with this division, adding Snell or Montgomery would certainly do that.
Yeah,
forget everything. Like if you put Blake Snell up there with Justin Steele and maybe Tyone at some point, like there's no question that puts them as the front runners in the division. But you can continue, if you want to kick the can down the road, like Ryan was saying. First of all, it's the Giants. There's no guarantee that the Giants are going to be in the playoff race come playoff time or at the trade deadline. He might be available to you at half a season salary come trade deadline, and then you're not adding as much money and you still get him for the important games. So I wouldn't count on that, but like it's possible. He's in a division with the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and he's in a good division. So I think you can kick that can down the road a little bit longer. And I think the reason, maybe not specifically with Snell, but if it's Snell and we find out that they're not in on Montgomery, then I think the reason pretty obviously is they like the flexibility that Craig Counsell has talked about a lot at spring training. They're at this key moment where he believes they're competitive, and yet they're still developing guys at the same time. They're able to see both of those happening at the same time. They're not mortgaging the future. They're not mortgaging the current team. They're able to do both. And at any moment's notice, they have the flexibility right now to pull that switch, which could be the trade deadline, right? Like, so you may get your answer on the outfield guys. We may find out that Seiya Suzuki has a great season. And now someone from that prospect list in the outfield is available, and you can go get a Blake Snell or a Montgomery or another frontline pitcher. That move can still keep happening. But if you're asking me what would have made the Cubs better on opening day, obviously Blake Snell would have made the rotation better. Forget everything else. He is a good pitcher. I'm not saying there aren't flaws, but he would have made them the clear favorite in my mind to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question is, would I rather the Cubs have flexibility at the end of July to be able to add, or do I want them to add it now and potentially run away with the division? I will say that if they did sign Blake Snell, I don't know if they run away with the division. I really don't. I understand that he is more proven. He's had a lot of success. He's coming off one of his best seasons, right? But I don't necessarily think that adding him would have led to them running away with the division. You know what I mean? This team isn't, going into 2016. It's nothing like that, right? Like we know that. That's a fact. So, and when I think about it that way, I'm okay with the fact that they didn't. And yeah, last year, like Ryan said, I was upset that they didn't add another reliever. And it cost them in September because of injuries to Albert Alzolay and Michael Fulmer.
Yep.
And they didn't add that reliever because of this type of situation. So I like them having the flexibility now. Someone in the chat, I think, said something about, they think the Cubs think that Cade Horton and Ben Brown could be available by June. I mean, those guys are, it was Carter Hawkins, the real Carter Hawkins, obviously.
Yeah,
don't let the facts get in the way.
No doubt about it.
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. Listen, Cade Horton, Ben Brown, whoever, like the only thing that sucks about that scenario is that you don't really know what you're going to get out of those guys because they're prospects. You just don't know. And so the thing that others will bounce back off that is the fact that Blake Snell is proven. So I understand both sides. Again, for me, the reason that I'm a little disappointed is just the fact that it is the kind of deal that Jed Hoyer's been has gone after his entire tenure with the Cubs. So I think at this point, it's kind of one of those wait and see things. Like hopefully the Cubs aren't regretting this. I still think Jordan Montgomery is a possibility, but I'm not going to hold my breath at this point because of everything that Ryan already explained. I don't need to say it again. Like it feels like they're not going to do it. And all I can say is they better be right, or a lot of fair criticism is going to come. It will be a massive disappointment if we're sitting here in July and talking about a team selling. This is a fact of the matter, man. This is a fact of the matter. Massively disappointing.
Yeah, you're also right about the guys that aren't. There's enough question marks in the team that it's not a given that Snell makes them a winner, right?
Right.
I mean, that's true. Yeah. Bush is a question mark. Morel's a question mark. Cody Bellinger's even a question mark. I mean, you have question marks all over. You have a bullpen that's got question marks. So it's not like you have guarantees that Snell makes you run away with the division. This is baseball. It's a funny sport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I think that all definitely plays into it. And yeah, like Cody said, obviously you can't expect to sign Blake Snell anymore because he just signed. But Jordan Montgomery, I mean, I don't know exactly what the contract would look like. I don't know if he's probably going to get less than Snell would be my guess. Even if it's like the same structure, probably less than Snell. But even then, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, where is the Cubs' salary limit at right now? Like it should, especially if they're competing in July, should be higher than what it is right now of what they are willing to, what threshold they're willing to go over, how much they're willing to spend. But yeah, like adding Jordan Montgomery right now, putting him on your books for the year, that just in itself, like it's going to limit in comparison to that, whatever that level is that you don't want to go past, just on its own will limit what you can do later on in the season. Again, not saying that's right or wrong, but that's just how it looks from the outside, and that's just how the Cubs are kind of operating.
Yeah. You know what's for certain, though, guys? New flooring.
Oh, yeah.
When you get new flooring, your life is completely changed. I know Collada, Godfather, who used Empire, his life completely changed whenever when he used our code. With Empire today, you get shop, at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guaranteed. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they have copycats, but Empire can be beaten on quality, service, speed. So competitors advertise low-quality products that Empire simply won't carry. Empire won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that they wouldn't put in theirs. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with the thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is as important as what they put in. Empire's product team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. The virtual floor designer is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's easy. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. Shopping for floors at a big box store can be frustrating. You might talk to someone today who was working in plumbing yesterday, like Ryan, for example. Flooring is all Empire today does. They live and breathe flooring. So you can be confident you're getting honest, upfront advice. They pride themselves on the convenient shop-at-home service. They help customers shop for floors where they use their floors so they can see exactly what their new floors will look like in their homes, lighting, and decor, so they can make an informed decision. If an issue does arise, just call Empire. They service all the warranties themselves. You won't have to track down a manufacturer's phone number. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details.
Yeah. And you know what you should do when you're sitting there looking at your new floors. You got the $350 you saved, just counting it in your left hand. What you should have in your right hand? An ice cold Blue Moon.
Yeah.
I need one. I'm missing one right here.
Yeah, I got mine right here.
Look at that bucket. Beautiful on the set.
Oh yeah.
Bucket of Blue Moons.
Brand new right there. No, we love Blue Moon.
I love Blue Moon.
Was it Blue Moon wake up? Blue Moon at lunch?
Wake up, Blue Moon. Eat lunch, Blue Moon. Eat dinner, Blue Moon. Go to bed, dream about Blue Moon, and then repeat.
Yeah, it's like The Office episode where Pam's pregnant and her and Kevin have like 8 meals throughout the day. Mm-hmm. It's the same way, but it's instead of meals, it's 8 times to drink Blue Moon throughout the day.
Exactly. What else would I rather do?
Blue Moon made brighter. Get Blue Moon delivered and see delivery options by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
All right, here in the second segment, we're going to talk a little spring training update, which is presented by Factor. Use code CHGO Cubs 50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life with any active subscription at factormeals.com/CHGO Cubs 50. All right, so we were going to talk about this yesterday, and then I think we ran out of time or I forgot to bring it up. But over the weekend, Keegan Thompson and Matt Mervis were optioned to AAA Iowa. And I think we're going to tie this into, the projected opening day rosters that were put out by MLB.com
And The Athletic.
And The Athletic today. But I will say that Matt Mervis getting optioned over the weekend is just so telling to me on how the Cubs feel about him. I tweeted that over the weekend. I still feel the same. I haven't changed my mind on that. It's not that I feel this way. It's that I think this is how the Cubs feel. Because how much more in the minors do you need to see from this guy to give him an actual opportunity? The DH spot was open for him, but you gave minor league deals to Garrett Cooper and Dom Smith. And they're still in the running to make the roster. I know Garrett Cooper's had a pretty good spring with the Cubs, so I feel pretty confident that he might make the team. Again, I'm still a believer in Matt Mervis because he's had 100 plate appearances, but I don't think the Cubs are. And so I feel for him, and I'm waiting for that trade at some point. So that's my biggest takeaway from these two getting optioned. Keegan Thompson, his time will come. He's just, he's got to wait for that opportunity to come again because he's just farther back on the quote-unquote depth chart. Because I think the bullpen is pretty healthy right now and has a lot of depth. But we see injuries all the time. Yep. So I think Keegan Thompson will be on the Major League squad at some point this year. But Matt Mervis, I don't understand why he's not getting a shot to, or at least a longer leash here this spring. Again, they needed to make cuts anyway, but to me it's just very telling that he's not going to get this opportunity. And so, I feel like we're going to be doing a lot of talking this season about what we did last year, first base and third base, right? And Michael Busch is it looks like he's going to get some run. I feel good about it. I'm excited to see it play out. But the DH is I have no idea right now. I really don't. I have no idea what the Cubs are thinking about DH right now.
Yeah, no, it's with Mervis, I don't know. It kind of feels like they're saying it without saying it, right? If they had complete faith that Mervis was going to come up and contribute better than he obviously did in his first results-wise in his first stint with the Cubs, they wouldn't go out and make all these minor league deals, spring training invite, all that stuff. They may not even go out and trade for Michael Busch, So without saying it, they're making it pretty clear that they still think Mervis has things to work on. I'm not saying that they don't have any confidence that Mervis will ever have success in the big leagues, but they got to look at him last season, sent him back down, and they clearly think that he's got stuff to work on. He's still got to prove some things, and you said it, Mervis, good dude, hopefully he can, right? Because not only would that be good for him, confidence-wise, getting back up to the big leagues and having success, but if you're talking about left-handed potential power bats, he's one of those guys that's right up there at the top of, at the top of the minor league totem pole for the Cubs that could provide that if he can find that consistently in the big league. So, yes, it would be good just overall for him to start having success, or to continue having success that he's had at the minor league level. And if he does get that opportunity at the major leagues to come up and produce the way they hope he can. But yeah, no, we're looking at it like Michael Busch, Patrick Wisdom, is still in that mix for that backup first base job. Garrett Cooper, Dominic Smith, like you mentioned, those guys, all still in that mix. And meanwhile, Mervis being optioned to AAA, going back to minor league camp, like it's clear where he's kind of falling on the totem pole right now. And I guess we'll see what happens in the season. Injuries happen. Guys that don't make the opening day roster may have an opt-out in there that can allow them to go back out and seek other opportunities. So it's going to – from the outside looking in right now, it looks like it's going to be some time and definitely some work for Mervis to get that next opportunity. Will it happen? It could, and it's going to be on him to, take advantage of it.
Sure.
It is funny how quickly it changes in 1 year, even from a fan perspective. I don't know if the Cubs' perspective changed on it or not, right? Like this time a year ago, fans were clamoring to see Matt Mervis be the everyday third baseman. And now you don't really hear that too much. It feels more and more like you see people coming around to, well, he might be a depth guy. Or like Cody said, maybe the organization isn't high on him. I was thinking today as I was sitting around, I was like, Matt Mervis, if this was college football or basketball, he'd be in the transfer portal, right? He'd be looking for another opportunity real quick. The season wouldn't even be started. He'd be sitting there in that transfer portal and saying, I'm not playing in the NIT. I'd rather go to play at Oklahoma next year. Listen, there have been a lot of Micah Hoffpowers, a lot of Brian LaHares, a lot of guys who pound the ball at AAA and then get to the major leagues and the flaws in their swings show up. I'm not saying Matt Mervis is that guy or he's being pinpointed as that guy, but right now, like Ryan said, it's pretty clear that the pecking order, there's a lot of guys ahead of him at this moment, and he's going to have to go down and not show that he can dominate AAA. He's got to go down to AAA and show the Cubs that he's corrected the things that they see in his swing that won't work at the major league level. That's what we're waiting for.
Well, that's the thing is he dominated AAA while having things in his swing or whatever it is that the Cubs saw that didn't translate to the major league level. So, yeah, like you said, just dominating AAA isn't going to show them anything because he has done that already, and that didn't translate to the success at the major league level. So, yeah, I think that's the big thing is, I mean, obviously you have to continue dominating AAA. Like, you have to keep doing what you've done at that level. But it's the underlying things. It's the other stuff that they sent you back down to work on, or the stuff that they felt didn't lead to your success at the major league level, that you have to show them that you've fixed those things, you've worked on those things, you've improved on those things, and that you could be a trusted bat at the major league level by doing those things.
Dave in the chat said that he was an undrafted free agent. Guys don't get as many chances as guys they traded for or drafted. Well, the thing is he was an undrafted free agent in 2020 when there was 5 rounds.
Yeah, he would have been drafted.
He would have been drafted
relatively high for sure.
So, like, that's what I always tell people. And Barb, no, I'm not asking for Matt Mervis to be traded. I'm just saying I think that the Cubs aren't high on him. I've said multiple times that I'm still high on him because to me 100 plate appearances isn't enough to describe if a guy is going to be a good major leaguer or not. We've seen guys come through here and not get big opportunity and then go on to have good careers with other teams. So I'm not out on Matt Mervis. I'm frustrated because of course they're analytics people, they're coaches, whatever. They know more than me. That is for damn sure. All right. However, this just felt like a prime scenario for him to get that opportunity to get that second chance. And if it didn't work out, then great. Then at least you have an answer. And I think that's my biggest frustration is that Matt Mervis isn't the only person in this category of questions that they've had time to figure out if he's going to be a guy on this team when they're good again or not. And that's honestly my biggest frustration. Matt Mervis, Alexander Canario. I know Canario is a little bit of a stretch considering the injury last year. Fine. But Morel at third base, you could have done that last year. You didn't. The list goes on. And so it's just a growing frustration for me overall that we just don't know whenever you literally rebuild, spent the last 2.5 years rebuilding, and we're still sitting here with a lot of questions. So all I know is with this Mervis situation, if I'm wrong on them not being as high on him or whatever, and maybe I am, because the only thing that brings me back on that is the fact that whenever they signed Bellinger, they didn't just DFA him. They traded Bailey Horn to the White Sox so that they didn't have to remove a guy off their 40-man, all right?
Well, no, to remove Matt Mervis or a different guy. They did have to remove Bailey Horn off the 40-man.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like, that was the 40-man they had to get rid of.
Sure, yes. But like, they didn't just DFA a guy.
Someone.
You
sure.
know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
So, like, clearly because of that, they have some hope in him or some belief in him, in my opinion. Some small belief. It's not massive, but some small belief. That's the only thing that brings me back on it. So I just hope they figure this out sooner rather than later. And obviously, you know, if an injury or something happens or a guy doesn't perform, he probably will get another opportunity in 2024. So I'm just hoping that comes, because I just want answers. That's it. I want questions answered.
Yeah.
Do we all agree that of the three, I guess, bigger names that were either optioned to AAA or signed to minor league camp, Cam Sanders, Keegan Thompson, and Matt Mervis, that of those three, I would say, and I'm curious if you agree, I would say Mervis seems like the least likely to impact the Cubs major league team to a big degree at some point this season. To have a major impact on the Cubs team this season, I would say Mervis seems the least likely. And I would say somewhere in between there, Cam Sanders and Keegan Thompson, they're 1A, 1B. I don't know who it would be, but I think the opportunity for one of those guys to have a big impact on the Cubs this year is greater than Matt Mervis's chance because of where he stacks up, like Ryan was saying, in the pecking order.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, that's. Yeah, because if you're looking at the pecking order, and if Matt Mervis is coming up, there's probably been an injury. There's probably been a couple other things that have happened that made it necessary to bring him up. I mean, Cam Sanders looked on his way going into last year to being ready to impact the major league team at some point in 23. And I mean, the strikeout numbers are still great. It's the walk rate that is it completely ballooned last year. 22.2% walk rate at AAA last year. Like, that's super high, and that's obviously a reason why he never made his major league debut last year. So that's absolutely something he's got to work on to impact the major league team at all this year, on top of the fact that he's not on the 40-man, I don't think. And I mean, Keegan, after he came back down, I think he made a couple appearances in September when they needed some bullpen help, so it's possible he get it. Honestly, I'd go, like, I don't know that any of them are going to have a big impact on the major league team this season. Like, especially when you're talking about, again, Mervis, obviously it's like a first base DH thing for him. There's a lot of guys that could take either of those two spots ahead of him. The bullpen stuff, they have a lot of bullpen depth, a lot of guys that are making their debut, and even more guys that are continuing to come up through the system that if you're looking at a guy like Keegan Thompson, who knows the next time he gets that opportunity, just because there are a lot of arms that are around now and guys that are also ready to make their big league debuts. And something, same thing kind of goes for Cam Sanders if he can't figure out the walk rate. I don't know that I'd say any of them have a really big impact on the Cubs this year, but
I wouldn't say that because I'm necessarily saying Mervis has the least amount of talent of the three. I'm saying that because there's multiple bullpen spots on a team that can open up because of arm injuries or fatigue or blisters or all the little things that pop up in a bullpen. You've got a whole slew of guys where you could slot somebody in and he starts to make an impact. Mervis has one spot where he can really come in and impact the team. It's first base DH. And so now he's got that list of guys ahead of him. There might be guys ahead of Thompson and or Sanders, but there's more opportunity. There's more lottery tickets to getting that opportunity than there are for Mervis in a season. When you have one position and you don't have that flexibility of being able to say, I can play first, I can play third, I can play outfield, it's a lot harder for you to get that opportunity at the major league level when you're still just knocking at the door.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're gonna see how the rest of these cuts happen, and maybe this Mervis discussion will be a little bit easier to figure out. But like I said, Garrett Cooper's had a solid spring with the Cubs. Dom Smith, he's healthy. Yeah, and we know that the Cubs have been high on him over the years. So I don't know where they're going with this, like what decision's going to be with their DH spot. But they have a lot of options, and eventually they're going to have to choose. And the thing about Cooper and Smith is that, they can opt out if they're not getting the opportunity, right? And they can go find another team. So
I'm not sure if they both do, but
at least one of them does.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see how it all works out. But I will, again, to answer your question, Luke, for me, I tend to if you force me to choose, I guess I'd probably say Thompson would have the biggest impact, just because bullpen depth is so important over the course of 162 games, and I am optimistic about the bounce back for him this year. So, and he's looked good this spring. So we'll see. That said, I don't take spring training results very seriously either. But I do. The one thing I have noticed about Thompson this year is that the velo is back up. So at least it's been talked about it being back up. So I'm optimistic about him, helping this team in 2024.
You know what would really help you this year going into 24?
A new car.
Sure, yeah.
Yep.
A new ride.
Oh, yeah.
Ray Chevy in Fox Lake, you pull up to the ballpark and you just feel like a different person. Right now, best offers of the year during the March Radness sales event. Make your way to Ray Chevrolet on Route 12 in Fox Lake to join in on the savings, one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest. You're always able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories of Chevys. Perfect tailgate vehicles await you at Ray Chevy during Truck Month. For a limited time right now, they are offering 0% financing. Zero. Goose egg, that means nothing. 0% financing for 72 months on new Silverados with over 100 available. 125 vehicles under $20,000. Seriously, guys, can pricing get more affordable than that? I say no. And everybody loves the word free. That's what you get this month at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake, a free oil change. And let me tell you, those babies can get expensive too. All you need to do is mention CHGO when scheduling your oil change. Start off the year right. Schedule it right now by April 1st. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Find new roads. Those new Silverados are pretty slick. And if you're thinking about one of them, Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake, Route 12, that's the place to go check it out.
My car, I'm under $1,000 on paying it off finally, which means I can go buy a new car afterwards and have two cars if I want. All right. And all I can think about is getting a Silverado and then heading over to Woodridge, Illinois and picking up some bacon. Imagine that new car smell, then add in some bacon into that.
That might as well be the new car smell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd rather my car smell like bacon than the new car smell personally. Yeah. Right.
Like anybody's ever bought one of those Silverados at Ray Chevrolet and they're like, man, what do you need all that? What are you going to haul? Lumber? You got a lot of gear? You like camping, all that stuff? Nah, I'm picking up bacon on a regular basis from Charlie.
Hell yeah, brother.
Bacon.
Absolutely.
Why else would you have a pickup truck?
That's what I'll be doing when I get my new Silverado. I'm going to head over to Woodridge, Illinois and pick up the bacon and bacon jams of over 35 different flavors from Charlie the Bacon Guy. All right, it's naturally cured, preservative-free products. There aren't any ingredients that Charlie can't pronounce himself involved in the process. Unlike most store-bought bacon, it's vacuum sealed and freezes perfectly. The bacon lasts in the package up to 60 days in the fridge, 1 week after the seal is broken, and 9 months in the freezer. The bacon jam lasts about 90 days in the fridge and up to 1 year in the freezer. But if you're keeping bacon in the freezer that long, you're absolutely doing it wrong. I know that I definitely am not leaving my bacon in the freezer that long. All right. The bacon jam goes perfectly on anything. Put it on scrambled eggs, toast, with or without the jelly, crackers, burgers, grilled cheese, charcuterie boards, cinnamon rolls, pizza, and Charlie's favorite, the spoon. The Bacon Vault has all these flavors he's made in the past. If it's not currently available, give Charlie about 2 weeks and he'll make it for you. All right. Some of the favorite flavors include maple pepper, chorizo, French toast, honey chipotle, Cajun, jardinera, raspberry chipotle. That's my favorite one. All right. Ryan, what's your favorite one?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, as someone who grew up eating a lot of bacon, someone who grew up eating a lot of chorizo, mixing those two together, that's absolutely my favorite.
I, too, grew up eating a lot of bacon. Anyway, their bacon jam flavors also are just the original bourbon, mango, habanero, cherry, jalapeno as well. There's so much to choose from. I don't know how people can decide. That's why you just pick up all 35. That's what I'm saying. All right, go big or go home. All right, and when you go home in your new Silverado from Fox Lake, Chevy and Fox Lake. Starting now, you can save 10% on your order at charliethebaconguy.com. When you use code CHGO at checkout, you can pick it up, which is the most efficient way for you, or he can deliver it to you, meet you halfway, or even ship it. He makes the bacon so you can bring it home.
Bring it home.
All right. And he's on social media, on Instagram, Twitter, Charlie the Bacon Guy, at gmail.com, I believe, as well. So hit him up because the bacon is different. It's been in this office. It smells good in this office, and it tastes incredible.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see Emma's comment? The French toast one, on fire.
Woo!
Right,
Emma, man, she's so
Take it up
smart.
a notch.
She's like, she makes my job easier with doing the stuff on the social game, and then she comes into the chat talking about bacon. I mean, what does this girl do wrong? I mean,
Nothing.
nothing.
She's also sitting right here, so
Yeah.
go to,
Yeah, I'm just being extra nice
Yeah, just
because
being-
we love her. As Sarah says in the chat, slay girl. All right. So today we're going to save the last part of the show for what we have done the last 2 years. We're starting it finally. We're doing our NL Central positional rankings. I know people loved this last year. I really don't know, but don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. I know I love doing it. All right. So today we're going to start with center field since I think the center fielders or the outfield in general in this division's pretty good for every team. And obviously the Cubs' best player last year was in center field / first base. But the Cubs overall, value-wise, got a lot in center field last year, believe it or not. So shall we go through the list? And then
Yeah, let's see the list so we know what we're choosing from.
All right, so the list is, and Sarah's bringing it up here on YouTube, Cody Bellinger and Mike Tauchman for the Cubs, and obviously PCA could be added to that down the road. Will Benson and Jake Fraley for the Reds, and TJ Friedl would have been there, but he fractured his wrist.
I believe it was a wrist fracture. Yeah, this is also like looking at what MLB.com and Fangraphs has kind of the projected.
This is what going into opening day will be, right? And then for the Pirates, it's Michael Taylor and Jack Sawinski. Sawinski played 126 games in center last year, but they just signed Taylor, who was a Gold Glove winner.
He has won the Gold Glove in the past.
Or he has one in the past. Had a decent year with the Twins last year. Then the Cardinals have
2021 Gold Glove, by the way, for Michael A. Taylor.
Okay. Thank you. Credit to you. Then the Cardinals have Dylan Carlson and Tommy Edman. I believe Tommy Edman could miss the start of the season.
Yeah. Oh, no, he has been ruled out for opening day, but it's not said if it's going to be a
long-term thing.
Yeah.
So he might miss, he might have an IL stint, the first week of the year, whatever. And then for Milwaukee, obviously the highly touted prospect, Jackson Chourio and Garrett Mitchell. So it's kind of hard to tell. Obviously, there's no one in the division that played all 162 in center field last year. But obviously, in the Cubs scenario, Bellinger played a lot of center. And then as the season went along, with the Cubs' issues at first base, they moved Bellinger over to first, and they played Tauchman in center, right? And other teams go through these types of scenarios too. So it's kind of hard to just pick one player, so we put 2 players for each team. So shall I give my 5?
Go ahead and give your 5.
All right. Yeah. So my 5, I'm going Bellinger number 1,
Yeah.
Or Bellinger and Tauchman, number one. All right. Bellinger was a 4.4 F4 last year. Mike Tauchman was a 1.8 F4. So what that is, like over 6 WAR combined in center field for last year. That's the best in the division. All right. Like far none.
Yeah.
The Cubs got the most value in center field last year than any team in the NL Central. So I'm going with Bellinger and Tauchman. After that, it's kind of tough to figure out 2 and 3 for me, but I think I'm going to go with the Pirates with Taylor and Sawinski. Sawinski, 2.8 F4 last year in 120 games. Taylor, 1.7 F4. He has a defense. He had 21 homers with the Twins. I just think there's a lot of value combined. And then that I think if Friedel was healthy, I would probably go with the Reds because he was a 4.4 F4 player, but he's not healthy and he's got to, who knows how long he's going to be out, right? So after that, I think I'm going to go with the Reds just because there's more proven there. But obviously, there's a lot of these could change. And the way that I'm doing this, again, is going into the season. This isn't like based off potential. This isn't based off.
It's based off what they did last year.
Yeah, it's all based off what they did last year. All right. So with Fraley and Will Benson 1.7 F4 last year. Of course, he only played mainly corner outfield, and Fraley a 1.4. He did played corner outfield and also DH. So Friedel being out for them is kind of a big deal. So I would probably have the Reds as the second best here in the division if he was healthy. But I'll go with them third just because there's still a lot to be proven for the Brewers and the Cardinals. All right, Chourio, top 5 prospect in baseball. Probably going to be a stud. But again, we're not going off potential. We don't know. So I can't take the Brewers ahead of the Cardinals here. I'm going the Cardinals at 4 with Tommy Edman and Dylan Carlson. Which ain't saying too much in my personal opinion. I think Lars Nootbaar played some center field last year too.
He's also hurt right
and
now.
He's also hurt. I think there's a lot of – if you look at it on paper, you can say that the Cardinals are probably better than some of the ones that I've already listed. But Tommy Edman, 2.3 F4 in 42 games. Dylan Carlson, 0.4 F4 in 50 games in center field last year. Edman, his value comes to the fact that he's just really – versatile, can play all over the field, play shortstop, can play second. But again, we're talking about center field here. I think he's going to play a lot more center field this year than in the infield since they have so many guys in the infield with one of their highly touted prospects in Mason Wynn probably getting a good run this year. So I think entering the year, they're probably going to go with Dylan Carlson, and he just hasn't been what I think the Cardinals hoped he would be at this point. He has a lot to prove. But Garrett Mitchell, 19 games last year. He was hurt all of last year. And then, again, Chourio hasn't proved anything. So, at this point, I have to put them last. But, again, potential-wise, they could easily be second or third on this list. But, again, as we're going into it, it's all based off what they did last year. And, to me, the Cubs run away with this.
Yeah, you know what I think's kind of interesting about it is that I was looking at Fangraphs. I know I like to spend a lot of time on the Fangraphs, and they give their
change of heart.
Yeah, they give their power rankings each year for position around Major League Baseball. The Cubs going into last season were 19th in all of baseball for center field. Why? Because you had no idea what you were going to get from Cody Bellinger. Now you hope you have a better idea of it now. I'm curious to see. They just started today or yesterday putting out their projections for power rankings by position. They haven't done center field yet. So I'm curious where the Cubs jump to now. I agree that if you would have done this last year, I would have said the Cubs are lower on the list. Or you could at least make that argument if you're in one of the other cities. But they're the only team on that list with a center fielder that's won an MVP, that's played at the level of an MVP. You might have a 5-tool prospect. You might have the best prospect in baseball out there, but one guy's won MVP and he's on the Cubs. And the guy behind him, you also had no idea what to expect of last year because he was coming from playing international baseball. He'd been in the majors, sure, but you didn't know what Mike Tauchman was going to give. He turned out to get the summer Mike Tauchman, right? Yeah. So now you have 2 guys, and then you have the depth of PCA adding to that mix, your top prospect in the organization.
Even
So I don't know that
Herrera,
anybody
too.
has three center fielders that can even come close to competing with what the Cubs have, at least in the National League Central. After that, I agree with Cody. Honestly, it's kind of a crapshoot. I could see any team after that falling in line in any other order, right? Like I could see the Brewers jumping to number 2. I could even see the Brewers jumping to number 1 in some. I could see a lot of teams jumping to number 1, but going into the season, I would have to put the Cubs at the top of the list. And after that, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I think they're all so close. It's one of those rare positions where I feel like almost everybody can make an argument for being number 2, and everybody can make an argument for being near the bottom of the list too, because there's very little that separates that group after the Cubs. I think the Cubs are clearly the power ranking for us would be number 1 in the Central.
Yeah, no, especially with TJ Friedl being hurt to start the year and extended absence. It looks like the Cubs look, at least on paper and based on what they did last year, with the Reds not having TJ Friedl, the Cubs look to have the best center field mix right now with Bellinger and Mike Tauchman, as you guys have been saying. I do think if you look at the list, and again, especially with TJ Friedl out for the Reds right now, just behind the Cubs or what, I don't know how I would rank them, honestly. Like, it feels like kind of what we've talked about with this division as a whole, where it's a lot of good. All the teams feel pretty good and feel even a little bit dangerous. Even, I've said it before, I don't think whoever finishes in 5th place in this division is going to be so far back of whoever finishes first. I think this division's a little closer on paper than maybe people give it credit for. But I look at this center field ranking this kind of the same way, where Bellinger and Tauchman, in my opinion, that's the grouping that would lead this right now. But like, honestly, between 2 and through 5, I could see Jackson Chourio and Garrett Mitchell, that pairing of center fielders. Obviously, Mitchell's going to be playing probably left field for the Brewers, but like, I could see that by the end of the season, that depth chart being higher than 5, or the Pirates with Michael A. Taylor and Jack Sawinski as part of that depth chart. Maybe the top 2 on that depth chart, they could be higher than that, right? TJ Friedl comes back, and all of a sudden the Reds may have the best grouping in the division, right? So I do think if you look at all 5 together, it does kind of reflect how we kind of feel about this division, and that I don't think you can count anyone out. I think you have to be mindful that none of these teams are like tanking anymore. It doesn't feel like a lot of everyone in the division is going after it, and maybe some more than others, but I don't see tanking teams right here. So you can't count any of these teams out. Any of these teams could be kind of dangerous.
Yeah, you're right.
And then again, groupings.
Yeah, perfect reflection of the division, and it shows you also how one guy can change everything, right? Like, if the Cubs didn't sign Bellinger, this is no offense to Mike Tauchman and PCA, but I could see everybody else in the division saying Tauchman and Pete Crow-Armstrong, they're the lowest in the power rankings for the division.
For sure.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So the Cubs could literally go from first to last in the division, but it shows that is a multiple guys for each team. I think it shows that it's a real position of strength within the National League Central. They got some pretty good center fielders. The Cubs could literally be first. They could almost be last. And just the signing of Bellinger, who, again, it's no given that he's going to do what he did last year, but because he's reached a level that nobody else has, I don't know how you couldn't put the Cubs first.
Yeah. When you talk about potential, again, like, the list is not based off potential, but when you talk about potential, the Brewers are the one that scares me the most, just because Chourio is so highly touted, and they already paid him. The Brewers actually gave money to a guy.
That's how much they believe in him.
And that's how much they believe in him. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm not scared of what that potentially could be one day. You know what I mean?
And then if anything happens, like Garrett Mitchell was a pretty
he was a highly
touted prospect himself.
Right. It was hard to, like, again, going into it, it's like, all right, well, Mitchell was hurt like all of last year. He played 19 games, but he was, again, a highly touted prospect. So, I don't know how the Brewers are going to do it. Are they going to put Churio in center? I assume so. And maybe Garrett Mitchell plays right field. I don't know. But when you look at it, again, on potential, they're the ones that I think could take the bigger step. And I think there's a lot of potential for the Reds and Pirates, but again, you just never know. But as we sit here right now, they're like pretty middle of the pack, and you can say the same thing about the Cardinals too. So that's why I pretty much agree with you guys. Like it's hard to tell, but it does feel good for the Cubs to have the best center field in the division. I will say
that was a good reason to start at that position for sure.
Yeah. Credit to me. I didn't even try to, but I just came up with it,
Well, we should definitely go back to this around the All-Star break and just add up production at the position. Yeah. Because even if those names switch and intermingle, it's like, the Cubs could go all the way down to Canario being their center fielder and still get the production that you're not just as much as somebody else's young prospect in the outfield, or Nootbaar coming back and having to who knows? But I think center field in the National League Central stacks up against other divisions pretty well.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. And obviously this last season, Bellinger and Tauchman providing what they did in center field was a pretty big improvement from what the Cubs had gotten from that position the few years prior. Mm-hmm. Show you how important that position was. It was for him, is for him. Like you said earlier, re-signing Bellinger for right now, on paper, going into the season, puts that grouping above the rest of the division, in my opinion. And it'll be interesting to see how this all shapes up, because there are this grouping itself, there are a lot of good players around the division right now. Mm-hmm. And, injuries happen, baseball happens, whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how it does shape up, All-Star break, end of season, whatever. Also, I think I said Garrett Mitchell's may start in left field. Obviously, he's not going to start in left field. He's going to start in right field.
Yeah,
I think
Yelich is in left.
Yes, yeah clearly. Yeah. So I think I said left field earlier, but clarifying, right field.
Okay. Well, I just want people to know that I did this with no bias whatsoever. I didn't even put the Cardinals last, like I did for every positional ranking last season, if you remember. I purposely put the Cardinals position players dead last year. Credit to me for moving them up to 4th this year.
It's called growth.
Yeah, growth.
Didn't they finish in last, though? Were they last place?
They did, yes. Lost 90-plus games. Remember when Wilson Contreras said that they went to a better organization and then they lost 90-plus games?
Wow. I do now. I do remember that now. Yeah.
Don't give me no actual facts, okay, Ryan? Just don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. All right. Before we get out of here, I did want to give a shout out to David Ross, who it was his birthday today.
Yeah, I don't know how old he is. He's somewhere in his 40s, I would think, right?
It was the CHGO Sports account tweeted that it was his birthday today, and I'm not gonna lie, I felt a little weird.
47 years old. Yeah.
47. What a young pup.
Yeah. Our friend Sean Caselli, who we haven't seen in the chat much this offseason, but he tagged me in a reply to that tweet saying that I can take a nap. I don't have to run the CHGO Sports account too, implying that I tweeted happy birthday at David Ross. And I said, there are not enough hours in the day for me to do my job, to run the CHGO Sports account, and be Clark the Cub. You can only pick two. You can only pick two. So pick your two of that three, and we'll run with that.
I can't wait to the first time he calls you Lil Craig.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, Lil Craig.
All right. I just want to say that
does Lil Counts sound better or Lil Craig?
Lil Counts, Lil Craig. I like Lil Counts, honestly. Lil Counts.
Lil Counts.
I just want to say that even though he moved, the Cubs fired him, all these things, he's still a Cubs legend, still a big part of the World Series and all that. So it's okay that we acknowledge it's his birthday, or some weirdos out there that were like bothered by it. So, all right, we got to remember what like the most important part of his tenure with the Cubs, and that was 2016.
Carried off from the shoulders of his teammates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, I also got to, I'm going to say this, and people may not agree, respect the fact that he took those lumps with the Cubs the last 3+ years with the rebuild and everything.
Big of you to say, Ryan.
Like, to be the one to wear all that, obviously, because he's the one that gets interviewed pregame, postgame every single day versus guys like guys in the front office who may talk once every couple weeks or like whatever it is. Like David Ross is the one wearing all the stuff for a team that tore things down. That wasn't his decisions, Like it wasn't his decision to tear things down and go through a rebuild, but he had to be the one to kind of wear things when things were going pretty bad. So, yeah, gotta give him some respect or some props for that. To just he didn't always do it with a smile on his face, that's for sure. But he had to be. He was the one that had to go, kind of wear all that a lot.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Collada to say something Collada-esque about David Ross. Yeah. Maybe he's not here. Maybe he left the chat early today. Anyway, Luke, Barb says that you need a nap and that she wants you to feel better. Get some rest because the chat wants you to feel better.
I'm going to pick up my new steroids right after this.
Hell yeah. Steroids are awesome.
Full package this time, baby.
Let's go. All right. Well, hopefully, maybe we'll see you here tomorrow. All right. Hopefully.
We'll see.
Back here tomorrow, 3:30.
We'll be live, Barb.
The Cubs play tonight?
Cubs play at 8:05 tonight. Cubs Diamondbacks.
Diamondbacks. Oh, I'm going to get some PTSD. Okay. So, yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by Blue Moon. You heard that, sales guy Jim. Presented by Blue Moon. Yeah, that's right. Acknowledge me, all right? We'll see you tomorrow. Fly the W.
We all silly like the mayor.